Sorcerers! Josh here. And boy, what a day it has been. I actually scheduled a day off of work tomorrow because I thought, Eric's Curioso has been dropping things on Fridays and I could have the day off and film at my leisure. And if it's a big announcement, I could actually take my time, digest it all, really think about it, make a really nice video. And then all hell broke loose. Well, let's start with the fire, because the other thing I don't think is fire, although it's interesting, very interesting, especially for me. The fire. Team Covenant posted their pre-orders for Dragonlord. Fantastic, finally. The first pre-orders for Dragonlord were up and available, and we could go on and order those, for those of us in the US, of course. Although I did hear some Europeans and Canadians decided to take a crack at it. Good for you. Man, I'm so sorry what you're going to pay in taxes and fees and all that stuff. But you're going to get it, which is good, because Team Covenant sold through their Dragonlord stock in about 3 hours. The email they sent out indicated that they were hoping that they were going to have this in stock for a couple of weeks. That was very wrong. So Dragonlord is sold out at the first location. This means a lot of things potentially. We've been told by Eric's Curioso that this product is going to be limited. I think in some cases they've even used the words very limited. Of course, Ed Beard Jr. has indicated that it is going to be a limited product. And if Team Covenant selling out in 3 hours is not an indication of being limited, I don't know what else a person would be looking for. Now, there are some individuals who, because of the way Team Covenant codes their orders, they're sequential. People were trying to guess, what was your order number? What was my order number? How many orders have happened for Dragonlord? And look, I don't understand any of it, but I guess by doing that, it seems like these guesses within the community that Team Covenant may have only had 1,000 units. That's really low. In fact, I would call that extraordinarily low. I was more expecting Team Covenant to get, 2,500 units, kind of at a minimum, maybe even 5,000. But I also was hoping for a print run of 20 to 25,000. Now, of course, Eric's Curioso is not going to tell us what the print run is. We're never going to have that information. But I was really thinking, with the bounce that I hope is coming with Gen Con and Star City Games Con, Gothic, I was like, I really think we can get a big bounce. And, they want to make sure that Dragonlord is something those new players can get. Because I think one of the worst feelings for a new player into a game is I can't get this particular product or that particular product. I don't know, back in what I consider the heyday of Kickstarters, there were lots of Kickstarter exclusives. And that was primarily used for board games. So, I got a lot of board games through Kickstarters. I'm sure many of you did as well. And if you missed out on those Kickstarter exclusives, especially in the days before they would leave the Pledge Manager open post campaign, you could really be out a significant number of pieces for the game. Lots of really cool and interesting pieces and rules. So it was a big deal when you missed those. And I feel like Sorcery, being this new to the scene, it would be unusual for them to be like, well, this product is only going to be available for, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months. Now, of course, Eric Curios has indicated they're going to have it at events. It's going to be at events. They're going to have it and they're going to sell it. But how much do they have? How long is it going to last? That's a big question. And with Team Covenant, again, assuming there were only 1,000 units, but even then, like, they sold out in 3 hours. So it's not like they had a lot. I can't imagine that in the middle of a work day on a random Thursday that they would have just sold out suddenly if they had a lot of product. They didn't have a lot, and they sold out on a random Thursday in July. So I have concerns, very serious concerns for those who are players. There has been a lot of people who have been very vocal in the community that, look, even if it's limited, you're going to be able to pick up the singles for 10 cents on the secondary market. I don't know if that's going to be the case. And so I worry about where this is going to go. As of the filming of this video, there's already a posting on eBay for the Dragonlord set. I presume this individual ordered it from Team Covenant for $460. $460. No, I don't care if these cards end up being the worst 13 cards game mechanics wise that Sorcery has ever produced. And that is not going to be the case because we have plenty of other bad cards. If these 13 cards are going to be, you're going to pay $500, and again, that's a wild price. Someone's just fishing. But, let's say that because the quantity is so limited, on the secondary market, this set that was $59, which had already upset many individuals in the community, on the secondary market, it's $200. Woo! $200 for 13 cards in a foil? And what are the foils going to do? Poof! Now, of course, there are some people who are throwing up, hey, they're just going to dribble this out. There's millions of boxes tucked away in some warehouse, and they'll dribble them out over the next decade. So you're not going to have any issues. Maybe, but I don't know. Team Covenant has been a key partner of Eric's Curiosa. For them to only get such a limited quantity that they sold out in 3 hours, that does not sound good. And this is on top of, we're already hearing U.S. distributors haven't heard anything, or they're just now hearing things. And the European distributors apparently are like, we aren't even getting it. So Europe, yet again, may be in trouble. I'm hoping that Eric's Curiosa rectifies that in some way. I don't know how they can, but it sounds really ugly. I talked to one of my local stores, and they said distribution's telling them everything's pre-allocated. They can't even decide what amount they get. They're just going to get what they get. This could be rough. This could be very, very rough. And what I felt 20 to 25,000 was a very conservative number. Everyone said that is way too many for this player base. And it is currently. I guess I just had really high hopes of where the player base would be by the end of this year. And maybe that's the problem. I based my print run expectation on Gen Con and Star City Games Con and all these other events dramatically increasing our player base. If that doesn't happen, then doing a run of 8,000 Dragonlord boxes or 10,000 Dragonlord boxes probably makes sense if we stay where we're at. But I kind of thought the whole point of this was to grow. So again, I worry. Well, I'm going to introduce new players to this game at Gen Con. I'm going to potentially introduce new players at Star City Games Con in Baltimore, which I'm going to Baltimore. Just so everyone knows, I will be there. Flight is booked, hotel is booked. Unless I'm dead, I should be there. Shouldn't say that. I should be there at, Baltimore Star City Games Con. So, I'm going to be, hopefully, introducing new players. And I think it would be kind of depressing to be like, hey, look, there's this cool new set that came out at Gen Con, and you can't get it. Now, obviously, at Gen Con, unless they sell out on like Thursday, I'm going to be able to tell people, go buy it. Go buy it now. I do worry, for those of you who haven't attended Gen Con has issues with certain premium items that are limited in quantity or whatever. So much so that they are starting to introduce a ticketing system for certain high-end items. Last year, the Star Wars Unlimited card game had this convention exclusive. There were 100 available a day for a convention that hosts 70,000 attendees. So they introduced the ticketing system. But I was also there at the release of Lorcana, and there wasn't a ticketing system, and it was a disaster. An absolute, total disaster. Lines wrapped around the entire convention center, out the door, people running and just rushing this booth. There was no order. It was terrible. And the problem with this Dragonlord set, okay, let's be clear, Sorcery is not Disney. It's not. But if people listen to this, there are people that speculate on games, and not people in our community even. People that just speculate on games. There are people that do that. That's one of the top things to do at Gen Con. Literally, people make whole lists. Make sure you go to this booth, all these booths, grab these exclusives, flip them on eBay, you will make a ton of money. That is something that people do at Gen Con. So, if they hear that Dragonlord is truly this limited, and we are very close to Gen Con. Very close. They're gonna hear. I hope they've got line control ready at the Ars Curiosa booth, because it could be real ugly on that first Thursday. It could be real ugly. And I've got to assume they're going to impose a 1 per person limit. But it doesn't change the fact that you're going to end up with a lot of speculators who, they're not even part of our community, that aren't, I consider there are certain people in our community that are speculators, but they're part of Sorcery. They know the game, they know what it is. These speculators, they're not involved at all. They are here for the cash grab and to leave. They don't intend to do anything to keep Sorcery going. They only care about that flip. And so my big concern is that this is going to be big news on many of the social media platforms out there just related to games. And people are going to be like, well, make sure you make your way over to the Eric's Curiosa booth very early Thursday morning to get your copy of Dragonlord, because you can flip that puppy for $500. Not good. Not good at all. It really worries me. A great, great deal. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just Team Covenant didn't ask for as much of this product. Maybe that's what it was. But more and more, the idea of a print run of 7,000 units. And 7,000 makes sense. Why? Because Ed Beard Jr. confirmed he got 700. He got 10% of the run. 700 or 7,000. He got 700. So it is his world. I would want a huge chunk of the run. Is that where we're at? There's 7,000 of these things. I've got to admit, if that's the case, I obviously want one for the shelf. I'm assuming Bearish is going to make me a nice case, right, guys? I'm going to get my Bearish case. I'm going to put it on my shelf. Bearish case, Dragonlord, it's going to go somewhere in here, hopefully. Maybe up there. I don't know. It's going to go somewhere. But I hate the idea of it sitting there when a player needs it. I don't know. I'm concerned. I am deeply concerned. Now, for those out there who are collectors, this could be the play. This could be the play to say, look, we know we printed, this is Eric Curiosa's play. We know we printed a lot of beta. We know we printed a lot of Arthurian Legends. Maybe we overdid it. Maybe we did. So, we're going to take this product, we're going to print it very short, and we're going to make sure that you understand we are still dedicated to collectability. That could be what Eric's Curiosa is thinking with this. Try to bring those people back in. Like I said, I don't want those people to leave. They did. A lot of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I don't want them to leave. I want everyone to be in Sorcery because I want the game to grow, continue, and thrive. But it's just, man, that balancing act. It is such a difficult task to placate all parts of the community. And, could it be the case that Eric's Curiosa swung hard to the collector side, maybe a little too hard? It could be. And now I'm even more concerned about the playability of Dragonlord. Because if a few of those cards we haven't seen end up being some type of a staple for a certain deck, it's like the alpha avatars, right? That's the, people want the alpha avatars because they impact the game. They fundamentally change how you can play the game because it's an avatar. Dragonlord does the same thing because it's Dragonlord avatar. And as I have expressed in videos related to Dragonlord, the nice thing about this avatar is he's going to change over time and have new abilities and new cool things. So he could become a very important card in people's collections in terms of play, if you play a lot. So the idea that there may only be 7,000 copies of the Dragonlord avatar plus foil copies in the wild ever, that's scary. Now, that doesn't mean that Eric's Curiosa won't reprint this. Of course, I imagine that all depends on the contract they have with Ed Beard Jr., which we're not going to know the details of. So reprints, maybe they could happen. Maybe they could do functional reprints, right? Reskin the card, give it the same ability. But maybe Ed Beard Jr. said, no, you can't do that. Who knows? Who knows? But I'm starting to get worried. I'm starting to have serious worries. And now all the folks who thought $60 was upsetting, what if it's $200? Your local store that you rely on, you've got 10, 20 players, and they get 4 copies of Dragonlord. It's ugly. Very ugly for the player side. We'll see. We'll see what happens, but I am deeply concerned for the player community having access to these cards, given what we saw today. Now, this could just be, like I said, a fluke. Maybe Eris Curiosa is going to be at all these events, and every time they go to an event, they have 1,000 copies. And if they go to, I don't know, 20 events, 15 events, that's 15,000 copies. But that could not be the case. The print run estimates that some people threw out may be very correct. And Eris Curiosa has stated this is a limited product. Team Covenant said it's a limited shelf life. Team Covenant even confirmed they won't stock it after this pre-order. So, presumably that this is it for them. But it all comes back to the idea, well, they could reprint, but we don't know. But I am deeply concerned. I don't want to be introducing new players to Sorcery in October and telling them, oh man, it really is unfortunate. You're not going to be able to get the Dragonlord set unless you're willing to shell out $350. Yeah, it's 13 cards, but those 13 cards, this one are super cool. They really make for fun games. It's really nice to have them. I don't want to say that. I mean, it is what it is. Eris Curiosa is going to do what Eris Curiosa is going to do, but I do not like the idea of this product skyrocketing that quickly. I worry for the player side of the community for that. And like I said, I'm all okay. I'm okay with $100 cards. $100 unique card, I'm fine with that. A few of those I think should exist. It ensures that collectors stay around. It ensures that there's a reason for people to, spend money on Sorcery. But if we're talking about, let's say 2 of the cards are, worthwhile, and the set's $400. Ugh. And some of you will say, well, just sell the foil and you'll recoup some. Okay, that's probably true. But I don't know. I'm worried. I'm worried because of the rumblings at Distro. I'm worried because of this sellout. We'll see where we go. It's going to be a very, very interesting close to the year. And already things were moving because of the announcements with Gothic. Where are we headed? Where are these prices headed? That's it for today. As always, keep on contesting the round!